I held her in my arms. She was alive.
Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Crystal and welcome to my channel. So glad that you have clicked on this video. So every Wednesday, I will be uploading a new true crime video. So please do not forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on your post notifications so that you guys are notified the moment I upload a video. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into today's case. As you guys can see by the title, today we are going to be covering another solved case. Today's case is going to be about a wife and a mother of three who was shot and killed in her home in the early morning hours. This is the story of Makeva Jenkins. Not sure if any of you have heard of this case, but this case was actually making its rounds recently on social media. And when I was just like looking at more information and facts about the case, I just knew immediately that this was a case that I wanted to cover right away. So Makeva was an entrepreneur and a great businesswoman. She was a devoted mother and wife. Makeva was also a business strategist as well as a business coach with the Peome Enterprise Group. So Makeva's husband's name is Euri, and Euri was a barber. He had been wanting to be a barber for a really long time. And Makeva, being the driven businesswoman that she actually encouraged Euri to go to trade school and, fulfill his dreams of becoming a barber, which he did. Like I said earlier, Makeva was a mother. She was a wife. She was a mother of three children, actually. She was a devout Christian, and she became an extremely successful entrepreneur. Makeva had a successful and thriving consulting business, and she also enjoyed going to church as much as she loved hanging out with her friends, her family, and just having fun. In 2010, Makeva met her future husband, Euri Jenkins. They actually met at a church event. Both of Euri's parents were pastors. His father served as the pastor of a church, and his mother served as a minister of the church. So Euri and Makeva really hit it off pretty quickly. Euri had a child from a previous relationship, and so did Makeva. So they each came into the relationship with having one child. So shortly after meeting and getting to know each other, Euri decided to propose to Makeva and they got married. Euri and Makeva went on to build a great, successful life together, the solid foundation, having God as the center of their relationship and the backbone pretty much of their relationship. So all throughout their relationship, Makeva was pretty much the breadwinner of the two. So it was known to their family and everyone kind of that Makeva brought home majority of the money. So Makeva would work late hours, well into the night. And she actually posted a selfie of her and Euri one night when she was up super early or super late into the night. And along with the picture, she posted this comment, and I quote, "This dude is always by my side. I'm finishing this business plan and he's right here, 4:30 a.m. I love him. He supports me in all I do. When I prayed for a good man, God sent him to me at the perfect time." So it was, pretty apparent to everyone that Euri was supporting Makeva and her dreams, and, her business was becoming extremely successful. So the following year, after they met and got married in 2011, Makeva and Euri welcomed a baby boy. Things were seemingly going good for the couple for the next few years, but a couple of years later in 2013, they unfortunately fell on hard times financially. They then both tried to start a few businesses to kind of get their feet back on the ground and running, but unfortunately, these business ventures were unsuccessful. And as a result of this, they eventually went bankrupt and ended up homeless. They had nowhere to live and very little money until things finally started to turn around. Makeva was eventually able to get herself and Euri out of the financial hole that they had gotten themselves in. Once this started to happen, he suggested that she become a teacher and teach others on how to start and be a successful business person and an entrepreneur like Makeva was herself. Makeva thought that this was a great idea, and this actually inspired Makeva to open her own consulting firm called Peome Enterprise. Her goal of this consulting firm was to help others who wanted to start their own business. Makeva went from being homeless and bankrupt to making 6 figures a year. As Makeva's business began to grow and she was able to get out of debt, she relocated her and her family to a very nice home in a great neighborhood. Makeva and Euri felt that they were finally getting back on track and were doing really well for themselves. So about a year later, in 2016, Makeva and Euri welcomed their second child together, a baby girl. So things were definitely starting to look up for the family. They weren't struggling anymore. They weren't homeless anymore. They had a total of 4 kids together. They weren't in debt, and they had welcomed a new addition to their family. Ultimately, Makeva was extremely happy that they saw it out on the other side together as a couple, and they continued to build their family and their relationship. But unfortunately, this high that Makeva was on did not last for long. The following year, on June 28th, 2017, at about 2:30 a.m., Euri was in the family's home garage with his friend Dimitri Davis and Makeva's brother, Quay. While they were in the garage, it's unsure if Euri or Dimitri told Quay to hop in the chair to give him like a haircut, but one of the two told Quay, hey, since we're in the garage, just hop in the chair so I can just, give you a haircut. Which Quay kind of like didn't think twice of it, because there was an entire like haircutting station set up in their garage. But needless to say, as Quay was getting his haircut and they were all just kind of like chilling and hanging out in the garage, they had the garage door up and open. A masked gunman walks up to them and forces all 3 men to go inside of the home, then asks for Makeva's mother by name, who storms in and he says, where's Makeva's mother? Like, where is she? Kind of seeming like he's looking for her. He then proceeded to walk up the stairs and fired gunshots at Makeva while she was in bed sleeping. That unfortunately ended up taking Makeva's life. The gunman then ran back down the stairs and out of the home, escaping in Dimitri's vehicle, which was Euri's friend. So after the gunman left, Euri then ran up the stairs and found Makeva suffering from a fatal gunshot wound. So they immediately dialed 911.
What happened there?
Someone got shot in the head.
Who shot her, do you know?
No, they came in with an all-black mask on.
Did he leave in a vehicle or on foot?
He left in a white Charger.
She eventually was pronounced deceased and passed away while in surgery at the hospital. When Makeva's friends and family all heard the news, they were of course all devastated. I mean, she did just welcome a child the previous year. They were finally, getting their life back on track. They were out of debt. They owned a beautiful home in West Palm Beach, Florida. Things were just going great for her. So to hear this shocking news that a masked murderer just ran into their house, ran up the stairs and shot Makeva was really surprising and devastating at the same time to the family. The person who seemed the most devastated of all was Makeva's husband, Euri. Euri actually held Makeva in his arms as she was taking her last breaths, fighting for her life.
Story we first brought you yesterday at 6. The search is on for a gunman who killed a mother of 3 in Boynton Beach. Today, we're hearing from her husband about her tragic final moments. CBS 4 anchor Rick Falbaum is in the newsroom with the man's heartbreaking story. Rick?
Well, Elliot, Euri Jenkins says he had to watch his wife die in his arms moments after an armed intruder shot her in the head. Faced with this unspeakable tragedy, he is going to do his best to hold on to the good memories of her.
She was a strong woman, a strong Christian. She kept me level.
Euri Jenkins is the husband of Makeva Jenkins. He says for the past 24 hours, he keeps replaying the image of his wife's brutal murder in his mind.
My wife was a good wife. She was a good mom. She was an entrepreneur. She came from nothing to something.
Jenkins says he was with Makeva just before 1:30 in the morning inside their home in unincorporated Lake Worth when a masked gunman forced the couple, a friend, and their children at gunpoint to go upstairs. They persuaded the gunman to let the children leave the house before they were forced to lie face down on the floor. Euri then saw the gunman shoot his wife in the head.
I held her in my arms. She was alive.
He says the emotional trauma is something that will last his lifetime, but now his priority is his children.
My oldest daughter, she's taking it hard. My 6-year-old, he knows, but he doesn't know. And my baby girl, she don't really know what's going on. She's 1 year old.
Jenkins, a barber by trade, telling CBS News that to get through this difficult time, he'll look to his family and his church for support.
Heartbreaking story. And just 2 hours before her death, Jenkins had posted on Facebook, Elliot, that she was proud of herself for working her way from homelessness to financial success in just 2 years.
So shortly thereafter, authorities then began their investigation to try to figure out who could possibly be responsible for taking Makeva's life and why. Why would somebody want to do this to Makeva? So going kind of back to when I said the mass murder came into the house asking for Makeva's mother. Some sources state Makeva's mother actually was into not such great things, and she had did, drugs, and she was kind of well known around the area. So people, of course, thought that, okay, well, since he came in and asked for Makeva's mother, maybe Makeva's mother owed somebody some money. Maybe it was a drug deal gone wrong. So they're thinking that the intentional target for this murder was Makeva's mother. And then once they ran up the stairs and shot Makeva, they mistakenly thought that she was his mother. But as investigators were doing their investigation, they found out that this murder was not intended for Makeva's mother. It was intended for Makeva herself. Investigators then later found out through Makeva's mother that she made a lot of posts on her multiple social media accounts about her business and her financial success that she had gained over the years through her business. So of course, authorities then think, okay, maybe someone came into the house and came after Makeva because, people online saw that she had a really successful business and financially she was very well off. So somebody could have seen this as an opportunity to perhaps rob Makeva of her money. Authorities then ruled this out because when the masked gunmen came into the house, they took nothing. They left jewelry, they left money laying around, they left wallets. So if they were after money, then they would have taken something of financial value or some money from the house, but they didn't. So investigators were then able to rule this theory out as well. Then as investigators continued to dig, they found that Euri's previous child's mother, whose name is Courtney, actually commented on one of Makeva's posts stating, and I quote, "You sure do brag a lot for someone who's married to a deadbeat father who owes $10,000 in child support. Even with all that money you're claiming to make, and Euri is still too selfish to support his own child. Hashtag deadbeat dad." Makeva then responded to Courtney's comment stating, and I quote, "Jealousy at its finest," end quote. So investigators then began to feel as if this could have been a motive for Makeva's murder as well. So once they looked into Courtney and eventually located her, they questioned her as well. But she denied ever having been involved in Makeva's murder. And after further investigation, Courtney was completely ruled out of having anything to do with the murder of Makeva. They just thought this was just some previous child's mom, mother, baby mom, banter over social media. Nothing more, nothing less. So after continuing their investigation, authorities discovered footage from CCTV of Dimitri, which is Euri's friend, dropping someone off a few doors down from Makeva's home before going to Euri and Makeva's house the night that Makeva was murdered. So of course, authorities are thinking, who is this person that, Dimitri is seen dropping off right before arriving to Makeva's home that night? This unknown individual, of course, had now raised suspicion for authorities. When questioning Dimitri, he stated that there was no one else in the car with him as he was driving to Makeva and Euri's home the night she was murdered. So detectives then received a call from Makeva's friend, whose name is Natasha Williams. And this phone call ultimately just sent the investigation into an entirely different direction, which made investigators begin to see a completely different side of Makeva and Euri's relationship. Authorities slowly started to realize that this picture-perfect painting of their relationship that, Euri was trying to tell everyone and kind of like put up wasn't so perfect after all. Makeva and Euri had struggles in their relationship, and Natasha actually stated that Makeva had confided in her that Euri had cheated on her with other women. Natasha then stated that Makeva had reached a point to where she no longer could take it. So she began withdrawing herself from the relationship and started to hold back emotionally and financially, since she was the breadwinner in the family. So once authorities, talked to a few more people, did some more digging, it was very apparent that Makeva was unhappy in their relationship, and she had plans to ultimately end their marriage by divorcing Euri. This then meant that if Makeva were to divorce him, Euri would lose his source of income because, Makeva was the breadwinner. He would have to find somewhere to stay because Makeva was the one who purchased the family home for them. And I'm sure after Euri found this out, he wasn't the happiest about it. So to investigators, this then became a clear motive for murder. And of course, authorities quickly discovered that Makeva had a $500,000 life insurance policy that previously listed Euri as the beneficiary. But unbeknownst to him, Makeva had actually recently changed the beneficiary on her life insurance policy to list her grandmother instead. So investigators then called up the life insurance company, and they told them that Euri did call to inquire about the life insurance policy money after Makeva's death, only to find out that he was no longer the beneficiary on the policy. They said that Euri was shocked and responded by saying, and I quote, "Wow, there's no way she could have changed it in time." So by now, investigators were completely convinced that Euri was behind the murder of his wife, Makeva. So once they got this information, they then circled back to Dmitry, which was Euri's friend, and interviewed him for a second time. During this interrogation, Dmitry confessed to authorities that Euri had approached him with a plan to murder Makeva and have her killed. So Dmitry then put Euri in touch with a guy named Jovan. Dmitry then stated that Euri offered Jovan $1,500 to kill Makeva. So they then executed their plan. The night of Makeva's murder, Dmitry gave Jovan a ride to Makeva and Euri's home, or as we saw from the footage, a ride a couple doors down from Makeva and Euri's home. After confessing and telling authorities everything Dmitry knew, he then made a deal with the police and agreed to wear a wire to see if he can get Euri talking and to ultimately confess that he was the one who hired Jovan to kill Makeva. Dmitry and investigators' plan was also to try to get Euri to discuss more details about the murder. But Euri must have known that something was up or off or whatever about the conversation, because he did not say a word about the murder. He said he didn't know who Jovan was. He just denied everything. So Euri basically said he didn't know anything that Dmitry was talking about. So the next person on authorities' list to bring in for questioning is Jovan. They brought Jovan in and he confessed to everything right away. He confirmed everything Dmitry had previously told authorities. Euri was then arrested and was told that he was being charged with first-degree murder of his wife, Makeva Jenkins. When Euri got arrested, he continued to claim his innocence, and he said that he had nothing to do with his wife's murder. Following Euri's arrest, Jovan was also then arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of Makeva Jenkins. Later on, while doing an autopsy, it was later discovered that Makeva was actually pregnant at the time she was murdered. So in trial, Jovan was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Dmitry, which was Euri's friend, the one that put Euri in contact with Jovan, he was charged with manslaughter and was sentenced to 15 years of probation. Euri was also found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison.
The jury in the trial of Euri Jenkins has found him guilty of hiring a hitman to kill his pregnant wife, Makeva Jenkins. The judge sentenced him to life in prison.
We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
And the victim's family was visibly emotional as the jury read that verdict.
So out of all the sentences, Euri got the longest sentence with life. Jovan, the man that pulled the trigger, got 20 years. And Dimitri, the one that knew about this and put Euri and Jovan in contact with each other, he ended up getting 15 years of probation. And this is honestly also sad because if you guys remember earlier in the story, Quay, which was Makeva's brother, was actually sitting in the garage that day. So everyone knew what was going on except for Quay. And it's just so sad because I couldn't imagine how Quay felt afterward, kind of like, or even during, just kind of like knowing that, oh my God, there's someone here. There's nothing we can really do right now about what's going on. And Quay has done some interviews. If I can find some, I'll try to insert them here.
I was going crazy. Me not knowing what happened to Makeva just set me up a real uphill battle on, like, do I even deserve to be here? And I just try to wonder, what could I have done? And, I kind of blame myself for it because I was supposed to die in that house and I was supposed to die for Makeva.
But he has done some interviews stating that he felt so helpless in that situation and he felt like he ultimately needed to protect his sister that night. So my heart truly goes out to Quay and the rest of Makeva's family, in addition to her children as well. To Makeva's close friends and family, it was no secret that Euri wanted Makeva dead and did not care that their kids would grow up without a mother. He ultimately wanted to cash in on Makeva's life insurance policy, keep the home that Makeva worked so hard for to house their family in. He knew that the moment this divorce between him and Makeva was final, that he would have to go now find somewhere to live. And being the selfish, low down, grimy, just evil person he is, he in turn decided to kill his wife, the person that he told in front of God. I mean, once he found out this life insurance was actually changed and left to Makeva's grandmother instead, I could just imagine how he felt in that moment. It's just so sad because Makeva was ultimately betrayed by the person she once loved, by a person who promised to always protect her and to love her, a person who she had planned to spend her life with, the person who fathered her children and her unborn child as well. This case is extremely sad, but if anything, I am glad that Makeva's children, her family, and Makeva got justice. I'm so glad that Euri will spend the rest of his life exactly where he deserves, which is in prison. Like I said, this story I've been floating around Instagram and TikTok lately, which made me ultimately decide to cover this case. And I'm really glad I did because the more I looked it up, the more details I found out about it. Also, after looking into the multiple businesses that Makeva had and such like a wonderful entrepreneur and businesswoman she was, and all of the work that she was doing to not just help her succeed, but to help everyone around her succeed. The business she created, she became a teacher. Makeva was just such an amazing and beautiful person. And it's very unfortunate that her life had to end this way. So that is going to be it for me today, guys. That is the case and the story of Makeva Jenkins. Hope you guys were able to gain some information about this case. And if you have not heard about this case before, then I'm glad you guys clicked on this video so that you guys are now aware about Makeva's case as well. If you guys are not already, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on your post notifications so that you guys are notified every time I post a video. I will be back next Wednesday to discuss another true crime video. So until then, I hope you all stay safe out there.